These are very strange days. I don't know if any of you could imagine what Council of Ministers meetings are like with all of the political tension that's going on. I would like to thank some of the well-wishers. I've gotten many phone calls and emails saying, stay strong. We've worked together, many of us, for 2 years, Minister Boseman, for about a year. And sometimes I find it sad that after having worked together in difficult circumstances, to find that some people have really just turned on you so quickly. I won't drop to any sort of political mudslinging, but I will defend myself vigorously, the ministry as well as the people of St. Martin. I'd like to thank the Prime Minister. You've taught me so much about government. I'm grateful for the 2 years that we've worked together. You've taught me a lot about politics as well. I remember very clearly after the first election, we had just completed, I think, negotiations for different portfolios, who were going to be the ministers. And I thought to myself naively, great, finally we're all done, now we get to work. And I asked you a question. I said, when does the politics stop? When do we get to work? And you honestly told me, son, never. The politics never stop. And honestly, I should have probably listened a little bit harder and learned a little bit quicker. I understand politics. I don't really like politics, to be honest. But I certainly understand that right now in this environment, let's blame the guy who's, leaving the team. I've always worked hard as a team member, putting my best effort forward, always giving all that I had to give for country St. Martin, for its people. As Council of Ministers, you need to cooperate, you need to work together, there needs to be a level of mutual trust and respect. You need to be able to believe in what your fellow colleagues say and what they do. Since Irma, like many other volunteers, civil servants, and first responders, I've worked every day since Irma. I've left my home, left my family in order to serve the country, as I said, like many others have done. Reported to work, cooperated with others, working together, and always trying to support each other. And always loyal to the people and to my conscience. And if I didn't agree, I have to admit, I wouldn't necessarily go along just to get along, and always doing what I believe was right for the people. Given some of the recent comments, I have to wonder, though, if a deliberate attempt has been made to delay some of my projects in order to make me a scapegoat, because I think some of the criticisms made recently are unfair. I did have my meeting with SOAB yesterday, and I'm in the process of contracting them to do a review. Since Irma, I've spent a lot of times in meetings with the governor and with the other ministers, and I've always been there to support the staff of VSA with their responsibilities. But certainly my focus was more on the mid to long term. I have full confidence in the staff of VSA in the ministry that they can handle the short-term crises. They've worked on this for many years. They developed their plans. They've been in EOC meetings for, in preparation over time. My concern was definitely more on the financial needs that we know are coming. The ministry has been hit hard. We've lost a lot of vehicles. And certainly the needs of the community are going to be tremendous. So my focus has been on emergency relief as well as recovery funds for the country. In general, I'm a bit disappointed with the way the relationship between government and St. Martin has been managed. Clearly, without a solid plan B, I'm not in favor of placing recovery funds at risk. It's clear that our country cannot recover with any sort of outside financial assistance. For the record, I believe that this is absolutely the wrong time for elections. I can't believe politicians can't find a solution that puts the needs of the country and the people first. Irma Cat 5 hurricane's been devastating enough, but the self-inflicted damage afterwards, between the looting and now the political damage that we seem to be inflicting on ourselves, is truly tragic. I ask all the players involved to find a solution. Again, I'm always committed to the country, and I cannot believe that going to an election is the right thing to do. And I, for one, am always willing to sit down and talk and find a solution as to how we can move forward.
Viewers and listeners at home, it is actually 11 o'clock, so I will kind of cut it short. My grandmother taught me the Bible verse, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under this heaven. And that is in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. So we will get to it, since I will be in Parliament tomorrow as well. Before I make any statement, I would like to, on behalf of myself, but also on behalf of the people and government of St. Martin, extend our sincerest sympathy to the family and friends and loved ones left behind of the former Lieutenant Governor of St. Martin, Mr. Maxwell Punt, who has passed away. We pray that his soul may rest in peace. I want to also make use of this opportunity to say congratulations to my dear colleague and friend for many years. We went to school in Colby together. She doesn't like for me to say that. She doesn't like that part. But I'm proud to pass the mantle of leadership of the National Alliance over to Sylvia Jacobs. Some people are trying to make it sound like, whoa, what is happening? Why now? If you, particularly the people in the media, if you would, research your database, you would know that at the Congress of the National Alliance in 2014, when Ms. Jacobs and myself were re-elected or elected leader and deputy leader, I also made the announcement then that for 2018, when I would have been celebrating 40 years of uninterrupted political involvement, as we then started the SPM that evolved into the SPA and now National Alliance. And I thought that after 40 years, it would have been the opportune time as well to bring a new leader on board. So it was at the Congress of 2014 that we made the decision that the transition would start in 2016 and then in 2018 for the elections. We, however, since then had elections in 2016 and now one in 2017-18, as postulation is still scheduled for next week on Monday upcoming, but the election date is on January 8th. We did not hold the Congress as yet, but since we would be heading into an election, I thought it was the opportune time, since she, for health reasons, was not ready in 2016, and she is ready to accept and take charge and take control of the party at this time. I think it's also a good time to have a fresh face as a leader at the top of our ticket. And besides a new face, not new to the political arena, she's not been around many years in the political arena, but new and fresh. It's the first time in the party's now almost 40 years of history, you would have a lady heading the ticket, leading the party. And I think it is not only good for the party, as it is good for St. Martin as well. As I said, I will be in Parliament tomorrow, and I will address other things. But I think it is important still to mention here that the focus over the past days has been how detrimental it is to hold elections now. Do we want elections? Do I want elections? No, we did not. We did not start this government when we did to have ship jumping affect the stability of the government. We could have had a majority of 8 between the National Alliance and the USP, but I thought it prudent at the time to maintain the coalition red, white, and blue. I won't go into, the details of what happened immediately after the election, but we could have had 8 seats. We nonetheless maintained red, white, and blue, which has always been something that I wanted. Red, white, and blue was formed in 2014, and because of ship jumping, never made it to the start of the election at governing. The week before, actually I think it was the week before, but it's the same day that I turned in my final report, had to, Mr. Cornelius de Weaver jumped ship, followed shortly after by Leona Marlin, and that brought down what would have been that first red, white, and blue. In November of 2015, red, white, and blue got into government, and we immediately started to change things around. St. Martin was in a financial mess. We didn't have a budget 2015. We didn't have an approved budget 2016. The debt with APS was sky high. The debt to SZV was humongous, and we were staring at a government building that was built for 9 years, standing there, not totally finished, and for sure you could not move in. These were among some of the things that we met. What did we bring to the table? Financial discipline. We solved the financial crisis, so to speak, that caused the previous government on instruction. We cleared the debt with SZV. We cleared the debt with APS in terms of making arrangements, and one of it was the sale of this building to SZV and renting it back. Now, people would want to, and I know there were questions back then, what craziness that is. You have a building and you're going to sell it and then to rent it. But all of these constructions made it possible that we could have a building that St. Martin could be proud of, that the entire Caribbean would look up to and be proud of. And even in Curacao and Aruba, they were talking about how great a stride St. Martin had made. Just visiting one of the offices this morning before coming here, I saw some old newspapers lying in the office, and one of the headlines in the Daily Herald was that CFT expects a surplus on the budget of 2016. The budget 2017 was balanced, and we were expecting a huge surplus there as well. And the budget of 2018 had been submitted in time. So how did we get here? A hurricane hits, and something that was in the making before the hurricane, trying to break up the government, not the National Alliance, not the USP. Coalition partners trying to break up a government that was working for the people. This whole issue of integrity, where did it start? In 2014, when we had the elections and we formed the red, white, and blue. What was the reaction out of The Hague? Finally, we have a government that will take office that we can trust and work with. Do the research. It's there 4 years ago or 3 years ago. That was the sentiments coming out of The Hague. They were happy. And then when the ship jumping took place, what was the reaction? They wanted to instruct the governor to allow Dutch agencies to get involved in the screening of the ministers because they did not want bad elements in government. Those elements weren't me. Every time that I screened, I passed the screening. Lo and behold, the government took office in 2014, and that coalition, and what were the sentiments again, and the pressure coming from The Hague? We need integrity investigations. We need integrity investigations. We need integrity investigations. Some 3 investigations were carried out. Some 3 reports were on the table, and the Bob Witt committee is the one that recommended an integrity chamber. And that is where that discussion started, not because William Marlin and the National Alliance were in government, but just to the contrary. We turned all of that around. We turned all of that around. And William Marlin was heading a decent government, a government that was working for St. Martin, working for the people of St. Martin, and was doing great things. We had a great team. We had a great team. And since Minister Lee, told you that I taught him a thing or two, often enough, he would tap me on the shoulder and say, PM, I enjoy working with you. I love working with you. And my response would always be, same thing here. Same thing here. As I said, for us, this team worked in the interest of St. Martin and did all the good things for St. Martin, including defending the interest of St. Martin, defending the integrity of St. Martin, and in defending our autonomy as one of the 4 countries in the kingdom. Yes, a young country, but a country. And if we would walk away and shy away from our responsibilities, we would be blamed equally for not standing up and defending our people. I won't go into repeating some of the things that have been said over the past weeks, but in terms of the cry for no elections, I have proposed before the vote of no confidence in Parliament, I've invited the other leaders, let's sit and talk about a national government. By now, you would know how that went. We had a meeting. It was agreed to continue because we had to go to the governor. There too, the governor impressed upon all the 4 leaders the importance of not creating political instability because it would not be good for the country. We left there to go to Parliament with a promise and a handshake with the governor, all 4 of us, that the discussions will continue. But instead of the discussions continuing, the meeting in Parliament continued, which resulted in the vote. What did I say before? I said, if Parliament passes a motion of no confidence in the government will answer with dissolving Parliament. So we can't complain today about the boulder that rolled down the hill and is causing elections because government dissolved Parliament without talking about who rolled the boulder down the hill. It is the Parliament, at least 8 of them, who voted to send home the government. All but one of the ministers did not receive a motion of no confidence, and it is obvious why. But if we would look at the performance of the ministers in the past in this cabinet, if we would look at their performance, if we would look at their record, if we would look at what was accomplished, we are not yet at the recovery. The complaints is that the aid ain't coming. That is absolutely not so. Aid has been coming, aid continues to come, and there is still more aid. But what aid is it? Emergency aid. Emergency aid. If we look at Sable, times smaller than St. Martin, with far less damage to St. Martin. directly under the responsibility of the Netherlands. But has one roof been repaired to date? No, not yet. Not yet. They have received, just like St. Martin, emergency aid, but the recovery has not started there yet. The French side, over 1 billion pledged by the French president. But have they started rebuilding the homes? Not yet. Have they started rebuilding the businesses? Not yet. Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory. St. Thomas, a U.S. territory. Have any one of you seen the recovery start there? Not yet. What have we said about the recovery plan? The final report of the recovery plan will be submitted towards the end of the year. Now, to make it sound as if this government did absolutely nothing to help the people, then who do we blame? Who are we going to hold responsible for it? The Prime Minister is not responsible for for tarpaulins or for covering roofs or for shelters or for distribution of water. That is not the responsibility of the Prime Minister. And as far as rejecting aid, aid has never been rejected. We have over some 10 Big Mac trucks helping to clean up the island. Emergency aid, we accepted it. We have 10 police cars. Emergency aid, we've accepted it. More than 10. We have a big command unit, those mobile units that in big cities, you place them at a place where you would have large crowds. We've accepted it. We have the emergency schools and more furniture probably that can fit in some of them. We have accepted that too. And the list can go on and on and on. So how anybody in their rightful mind can say government has been rejecting aid and the Prime Minister has rejected aid. Later on today, you would get a press release on aid that we've accepted that was sent in care of the Prime Minister, a container of goods from the council, the Dutch consul in Panama, where they have collected relief material. CCM, I think it is, another container sent to the Prime Minister, which we have accepted. Just before I left to Miami with my wife for surgery, another container came from a group in Puerto Rico. And I didn't play politics with it. They sent it personally, directly to me. I asked them to place it in front of the government building here so that people, it's not isolated somewhere. And I asked Joy Arnell of the Social Welfare Department to take control of it and to ensure that it is distributed accordingly. I did not play any politics with none of it, didn't go for photo ops or take things to distribute to people. I have distributed a good dose of tarpaulins to people. Never one day took one picture handing a tarpaulin to anybody in need. Those who have gotten know who they are. But I did not do it for political mileage or for anybody to say, oh, the Prime Minister out there sharing out things. No, I did not. There were bigger things to focus on. And yes, the focus was also on the bigger picture of recovery. Together with the Beijing Sustainable Development Committee, I have arranged the first container of container homes, which I spoke about last week. The transfer of the funds have been made. So I think now it's probably like 5 weeks away for them to arrive. There will be 12 folding, collapsible container homes. I promised to show you guys the video, and for those who would still want to see it, it would be available of what it can be. You erect the house in 4 minutes because it's a container, but it comes collapsible, and you can therefore store 12 of them in a regular 40-foot container. So aid has been accepted, and we continue to accept aid. Besides the Big Mac trucks, we have, I think, backhoe, we have some other heavy equipment, we have chemicals that we accepted. And there is still funding available because the emergency aid will end at the end of November. And then the discussion on the recovery would begin. So to blame the fact that things are the way they are, you cannot blame this government, and definitely not this Prime Minister. But it was clear that a campaign was there to smear the Prime Minister, make it look as if they were doing nothing, and they are blocking the aid, and they don't want aid, and this kind of thing. Absolutely not true. The deadline to accept the conditions was October 31st, and we accepted the conditions before October 31st. And then what do we get? No, we want more guarantees. We want all members of the Council of Ministers to sign the paper, and we want all members of Parliament to sign the conditions as they drafted them, without basically without giving the members of Parliament an opportunity to even see them.